I was already halfway down the hallway, jacket in one hand, keys in the other. The party was too loud, too fake, too full of people who smiled without blinking. I wasn't meant to be there anyway. Not really. Not with the way she had introduced me, like I was a background character in her professional life. So I walked, quietly, toward the front door, through corridors lined with glass and whispers. Then I paused because I heard my name, but not the way you'd expect, not shouted, not even spoken to me. It was breathed, like a secret, like something that shouldn't have been said out loud, and then laughter. Not the joyful kind, the kind that hides something sharp beneath it. So I stopped, right next to a slightly open door. The office. Voices floated out, hers and someone else's. Close, too close. I should have left. I was supposed to leave, but I leaned, just enough, and what I heard next didn't make sense at first, because you never think you'll hear the person you trust the most use your trust like currency. To buy silence, to buy space, to buy time, but that's what I heard. Her voice, sweetened, calculated, saying things I wasn't supposed to hear, things that explained the extra meetings, the late night strategy calls, the new perfume, the guilt buried under the compliments. She called it a phase. He called it complicated. I called it betrayal. In silence, I didn't breathe, I didn't move, because in that moment I realized I wasn't just listening to a conversation. I was listening to the undoing of everything I thought was real. And the worst part, there was no passion in their voices, just routine, like this had been happening for a while, like this wasn't the first conversation. Just the first one I'd heard. It wasn't thunder that broke me. It was the way silence bent around the corner and let something slip. The house was full of music, laughter, crystal glasses clinking like promises being toasted. But beneath it all, there was something quieter, something colder, something real. I used to think betrayal came with slammed doors, screaming, maybe tears, but I was wrong. Sometimes it walks on soft feet, speaks in soft tones, smiles while lying. It doesn't knock you over. It seeps in, like a draft from a window you forgot to close that night. I wasn't even suspicious. I was just tired. Tired of pretending to enjoy the conversations. Tired of explaining what I did to people who never cared. Tired of seeing her glow for a world I never belonged to. So I wandered. I wasn't looking for anything, wasn't eavesdropping, wasn't snooping. But the thing about betrayal is, it finds you when you're quiet enough to hear it. I passed by the den, just a crack in the door, just a voice not loud, but too familiar. It wasn't the words, it was the tone. That relaxed, low, intimate rhythm that people only use when they think no one's listening. I stopped, not because I suspected, but because something inside me shifted. A frequency changed. A tension I didn't know I carried snapped into focus. Her voice. The way she laughed, not the kind she gives me when we're alone. It was softer, more careful, like she was trying not to feel too much, and failing, and the reply? Even lower, even closer, measured, owned. You don't need to hear full sentences to understand betrayal. You just need to hear the weight behind a pause. The kind of pause where hands are too close, where gazes linger longer than polite, where comfort has crossed a line and no one's admitting it. I didn't move, didn't blink. I just listened, because something inside me already knew that I wasn't listening to strangers. I was listening to familiarity, to rehearsed danger, to trust repurposed for secrecy. It wasn't the first time they spoke like that. It was just the first time I heard it, and when I did, I didn't burst in, didn't demand answers, didn't rage, because betrayal like that doesn't need confrontation. It confirms itself in the whispers, in the shift in air pressure, in the fact that no one said my name, but I was still there. They weren't afraid of being heard, because they believed they were safe. But betrayal forgets that silence doesn't mean absence, and some truths aren't shouted, they bleed, quietly, from the next room. So I stood there, frozen in a moment I'll never get back. A heartbeat caught between the world I knew and the world that was always waiting underneath. And all I could think was, this is how it ends. Not with a bang, not with a scream, but with a whisper. I was already at the edge, one step from the door, one breath from goodbye, one nod from vanishing into the night like none of it mattered. But that's the thing about truth, it doesn't chase you. It waits, right there, at the edge of your exit. I wasn't meant to hear it, not that night, not in that moment, but maybe that's why I did, because I was done pretending, done holding up the mask of a man who didn't feel the shift in her tone, the shift in her stories, the shift in how she made eye contact, and how often she avoided it. And just as I reached for the doorknob, it found me. A sentence, a name, a sigh. 3 sounds stitched together, spoken too low, too careless, too familiar, not to me, about me. That's when time slowed, because your body knows before your mind does. Your skin tightens, your breath changes, your pulse hesitates. I turned, not by choice, by instinct, because something deeper than suspicion pulled me back, not to confront, to confirm. The voice was hers, the version of her I hadn't heard in months. The softer version, the version she used to use with me, when we still whispered things that mattered. But it wasn't me on the other end of that tone. It was someone else. And she was saying things I wasn't supposed to know. Things that were too detailed, too personal, too recent. You don't talk like that unless lines have been crossed, and comfort has been rewired. I didn't hear everything, didn't need to. Truth doesn't need full sentences. It just needs enough to connect dots you've been denying, enough to confirm what your gut already screamed in silence. So I stood there, half in, half out, 1 foot in a lie, 1 foot in reality. She laughed again, not loud, but warm, the kind of warmth that no longer belonged to me, the kind of warmth people reserve for secrets, for someone who's earned more than just a smile. And then I heard something that shattered the rest of me. A nickname, mine, no, but used in a way that stung, used in a way that sounded practiced, private, intimate, like it had been spoken before, in moments I thought were ours, but weren't. I didn't need more, didn't want more, because once you hear that kind of truth, you realize you weren't just a fool. You were background noise in a scene that had already moved on. And that's what people never tell you. It's not the discovery that breaks you. It's the timing. It's hearing it right before you were ready to let go. It's being pulled back into a fire you almost walked away from clean. It's realizing you weren't crazy after all. You were just right too late. The truth doesn't yell, it waits for the exact moment you're walking away to whisper, no, don't go yet. You need to hear this. And once you do, you can never unhear it. You carry it in the quiet moments, in the hollow parts of conversations, in the sound of your own name, said by someone who stopped meaning it, and all because you hesitated, you paused, you listened, when you should have already been gone.